Is your team in need of a wild card? G'day guys and welcome back to your English Aussie. Today we're going to talk through the best wildcard team for game week 6, a little discussion around chip strategy for the first half of the season, and whether the optimal formation has now changed to having 4 at the back. So strap on your boots and let's dive straight into the video. So this is what my game week 6 wildcard team is going to look like. Starting off in goal, I am going to have Raya of Arsenal. I think Arsenal's fixtures look really nice from game week 7 onwards. And from game week 6, where they have Newcastle, who have not been good scoring goals so far this season, that looks like a really nice fixture. And I think Raya is a really nice pick at 5.5 mil to go into. My backup goalkeeper is going to be Dubravka on the bench, who is the only 4.0 million playing goalkeeper. We do have Cole Darlow at Leeds at the moment, but when Perry comes back from injury for them, I expect him to come straight back into the team for Leeds. Following on from that, at the back, I am looking to have Gabriel of Arsenal in there. Again, like I mentioned, I think Arsenal's backline is probably the #1 defence in the league at the moment, with a really nice run of fixtures all the way from game week 6, 7, all the way through to game week 11. And I'd look to have double Arsenal in the defence. Next up on the back line, I will have Virgil van Dijk. I think he's been brilliant at picking up DEFCON points for Liverpool, along with being another good defence in the Premier League. Liverpool have some reasonable fixtures coming up over the next few game weeks, and then from game week 12, go on a really amazing fixture run. Virgil van Dijk, for me, is an absolute lock in the side. Now, next up in this back line is Senesi of Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth's fixtures rotate really nicely with Arsenal, which makes him a really nice pick into this team with a double Arsenal defence. Not only that, but he has become an absolute DEFCON monster so far this season, picking up 66 defensive contributions, the most of any defender in the Premier League so far this season. With the way Bournemouth play, I expect them to continue picking up these defensive contributions. They have that rock and roll, fast-paced transition style football that they play, which means there's a lot of possessions for each team in the game, and he's more likely to pick up those defensive contributions due to the high rate of turnover in the football matches for Bournemouth. Not only that, but Bournemouth have managed to keep some clean sheets so far this season, and with some reasonable fixtures coming up with Leeds, Fulham, Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest, he could look to pick up both DEFCON and clean sheet points over this run of games. Next up on my bench, and one that can be debated, is James Tarkowski of Everton. I think Everton's fixtures are reasonable over the next few game weeks, with West Ham, Crystal Palace, Man City and Tottenham, followed by Sunderland and Fulham and Manchester United through to game week 12. Tarkowski as well has been excellent at picking up those defensive contribution points, having recorded the second most defensive contributions after Senesi with 61 so far this season. Everton are also looking like a really nice team this season, defensively reasonable, having picked up 2 clean sheets so far, with Tarkowski a key defender in that side. Everton also have really nice fixture rotation with both Arsenal and Liverpool, which makes him an optimal rotation piece for your defence if you're not going to be playing 4 at the back, which is a real discussion point, which I will come on to later, about what the optimal formation to be playing in FPL this season is. Finally, the last one in my defence is going to be Alderweireld of Sunderland. Again, someone that has been picking up defensive contribution points so far this season for Sunderland, who just have a really nice fixture run, continuing on for the next 5 game weeks with Forest, Man United, Wolves, Chelsea and Everton. Sunderland have shown that they have been able to keep clean sheets and defend strongly, despite even going down to 10 men versus Aston Villa this week. Only conceded the 1 goal, which was a mistake from their goalkeeper. Alderweireld has really nice fixtures all the way through to game week 10, where Sunderland's fixtures take a turn for the worse from game week 11. You may look to move him out of the side at that stage. Moving on to the midfield, and a quick reminder, if you haven't already, please remember to give this channel a like, subscribe down below to the channel. It really does help small content creators like me continue to make this content for you, and I really do appreciate it. Into the midfield, and first up in my midfield is going to be Tijani Reinders of Manchester City. He's looked really good so far for Manchester City. With the injuries to Cherki and Marmoush, he looks like a mainstay in that team at the moment. He is someone that is now running on beyond Haaland, looking to get into those opportunities to score goals as well as being creative at 5.6 million. And with Manchester City's really nice fixture run with Burnley and Brentford, Everton and Aston Villa over the next 4 weeks, he looks like an absolute golden pick at that value. Next up in the midfield, I do have Cody Gakpo of Liverpool. A nice way to get into that Liverpool midfield at a little bit of a cheap price. I do expect there to be potentially some rotation in the Liverpool midfield, but Gakpo does have a profile that no other Liverpool midfielders do have. He has that strength and ability to drop into the midfield three when Liverpool are out of position. And even if Ekitike does get some minutes on that left wing role whilst being rotated with Isak, I don't expect him to have that same sort of profile that Gakpo has and be able to consistently play the minutes in that left wing role for Liverpool. Next up in the midfield is a man that has just been in fantastic form so far this season, and that is Antoine Semenyo of Bournemouth. Now, although Semenyo's finishing is definitely something to be looked at, he has just continued to get into fantastic positions for Bournemouth time and time again. Not only that, but he's even been able to pick up defensive contribution points playing as a winger in their team. He's also taken a penalty while Evan Nilsson is on the pitch. Kluivert wasn't on the pitch at that time, but with Kluivert not making his way into that Bournemouth side at the moment, it does look like Semenyo is going to be on penalty duties for them, and it just makes him such an appealing option with the positions he finds himself in, the amount of chances that he has, and also the ability to pick up those defensive contribution points. He is really ticking all the boxes for me and looks like a must-have on a wildcard this week. Next up in the midfield is Mohamed Kudus of Tottenham. Now, Spurs just have really fantastic fixtures, and that is definitely the reason that I'd like at least one Spurs player in my side. It was a bit of a close call between him and Xavi Simons of Tottenham. Although Simons was rotated in the league this week, that was because he played a part in that Champions League side for Tottenham against Villarreal in midweek. I do expect Simons to be a key part of the team and one of the main players in that side. But perhaps he was just rotated as he's picking up fitness and getting acclimatised to the pace of the Premier League and the place that Thomas Frank likes his teams to play at. I like both of these options. I've just gone with Kudus for the slightly cheaper option and the security that it seems like of the minutes. Finally, and rounding out my midfield is a man that has just moved to Everton, Jack Grealish. He's looked sensational for Everton, who look rejuvenated in the attack with Grealish alongside Ndiaye and Dewsbury Hall. Everton's attack has really been picking up steam, and Jack Grealish looks like a man on a mission, enjoying himself, playing football again every week, and really looking like the old Jack Grealish that we knew and loved. He could be a really nice differential pick at the moment for Everton, who do have some really nice fixtures going forwards over the next 6 weeks with West Ham, Palace, City, Tottenham and Sunderland before a visit to Fulham and Manchester United. I think Jack Grealish could be a really lovely differential pick in your wildcard team. Moving on to the attackers, and we do have Erling Haaland of Manchester City. He is the main man, the goal-scoring machine, with Manchester City just having such a great fixture run coming up. Burnley, Brentford, Everton, Villa and Bournemouth before a couple of tricky trips to Liverpool and Newcastle in game week 11 and 12. They then go on another magnificent run of fixtures from game week 13 all the way through to the second half of the season. Erling Haaland is a must-have in any FPL team at the moment. He is firing and in great form for a team who probably will score the most goals in the Premier League this season. Pep Guardiola has said that Erling Haaland did suffer a slight back injury during the Arsenal game. That was one of the reasons why he was taken off early in the 70th minute. However, he mentioned that he hopes that he will be fit for Burnley in game week 6. For me, that's enough to ensure that I have Haaland in my wildcard draft. Alongside him, I have gone for Alexander Isak of Liverpool. Now, I know he hasn't bedded down that number 9 role yet, with Ekitike also being in great form. So this can definitely be one where you look to shift depending on who the Liverpool front man is, or if you want to go for another option, potentially for Gyökeres at Arsenal for their nice fixture run, I think this is a spot which can be subject to change. However, having seen Alexander Isak start in the Champions League for Liverpool in midweek against Atletico Madrid, it does look like he is going to be embedded as that number 9 role, despite Ekitike's great form. And he is somebody that I would look to move into my team to give us more from that Liverpool attack, who again are a team who score a lot of goals. The one tweak I would consider making to this team, if you're not happy with it, is moving Alexander Isak out of the team, potentially for a Victor Gyökeres at 9 million. We do also have 0.8 million left in the bank. That does allow you to upgrade a Grealish or a Kudus up to potentially a Bruno Fernandes in the midfield, who could bring you an alternate route to points. And finally, to round out the strikers, I do have Mark Gui of Chelsea at 4.3 million. He is the cheapest striker that's out there at the moment, dropped in price from 4.5 million from the start of the season. I don't think that you do need 15 playing players. I think that if you set up your team with a really strong defence, you do have the ability to play 4-4-2, even 4-5-1 at times. And I think that is really important in the structure of your team. I think you can fit in a lot of nice players by having this structure and having Gui on the bench as a 4.3 million. You are able to use those funds to really pick some of these premium players, such as an Isak, a Haaland, and still having the Semenyos, the Gakpos, and even Grealish, Kudus and Reinders all as really nice midfielders, whilst also having those pricier defenders like Van Dijk and Gabriel, and also David Raya in goal at 5.5 million. I think this gives you a really nice, well-rounded wildcard team with some really nice rotations in the defence, rotations in the midfield, and those big hitters up front to pick up the major hauls and for great captaincy options going forwards. I'd like to take you over to the FPL site and talk through the highest point scorers at the moment this season. And you can actually see that the top 9 defenders have scored over 30 points this season. Whereas if you look at midfielders, there are only 5 midfielders over 30 points. And for forwards, there are only 3 midfielders over 30 points so far this season. And although you can see the real highest scorers are the key players to have in your team for both forwards and midfield, on average, you can see the defenders tend to be scoring slightly higher points so far this season, specifically due to defensive contributions being incorporated into the game. Looking at that, I would think that potentially looking at a 4-4-2 or a 4-5-1 formation is definitely something that could be considered going forward this season, and something that should be thought about while you're on your wildcard, and why you should pick some strong defenders and some players who you expect to score high points over the rest of the season. Once you play your wildcard, it is important to look to then pick up those players who are scoring defensive contribution points. At the beginning of the season, as I mentioned, you were able to take punts on players that you thought would pick up those attacking returns over a short period of time that were likely to potentially outscore the players with DEFCON points. Now we can see what sort of teams are picking up the DEFCON points. For example, the Bournemouths, the Evertons, the Liverpools as well in Virgil van Dijk. These are the sort of players that you need to be looking at going forwards, where they can combine both the defensive contributions and the potential clean sheet points in order to maximise your potential returns. This is really important going forwards, along with looking to align to what the clean sheets are going to be on the fixtures, picking up those defenders that can get those additional 2 points every game week for defensive contributions, such as a Senesi, a Tarkowski, a Lacroix, Virgil van Dijk, are really important longer term on a wildcard, as longer term those DEFCON defenders will outscore the attacking fullbacks. Have a think about that as you go forwards. Have a look at the rotations. I recommend planfpl.com as a free website to check out your rotations going forwards in the defence, in your midfield, as you go on a wildcard. Now, on whether Game Week 6 is the optimal time for you to wildcard, I do think if your team is struggling at the moment, Game Week 6 is looking like a really nice week for the wild card. Given that Newcastle have not been fantastic offensively, it allows you to really go into that Arsenal defence strongly. ahead of their fantastic fixture run. That really swings from game week 7, but now game week 6 seems like also a great fixture. This really gives you even more impetus to go for it 1 week early. A lot of other nice fixtures include HAALAND against Burnley for Manchester City, as well as Tottenham continuing a really nice fixture run for themselves. This gives you a lot of flexibility, a lot of options, and I think we are really starting to see who the good picks are, especially across the defence. And with HAALAND up front, I think there's still a few more unique gems to be seen across that midfield section who will stand out over the next few weeks. And one of the main reasons for potentially holding that wildcard a little bit later towards a game week 11, a game week 12, is to be able to spot those midfield gems that will be arriving later. However, if you do go into a wildcard team like this, pick up on those gems early, you are going to get a lot of price rises out of it and potentially make a big gain on your competition. As I've said many times so far this season, game weeks 1 to game weeks 8 to 10 are where the biggest variances are during the season, where you can pick up the most points. And if you can play your chips correctly and pick the players early in the season, you can get a big jump on your rivals before the teams start to become a little bit more template, when the players become a little bit more clear who you should be picking, and there's a lot more data to work off. So if you think you know who you want to go for, if you like the look of this wildcard team, go into it early, try and make those gains. This is a really good strategy for finishing super high in FPL. If you do want to play it safe, wait for a little bit more. If you think your team's looking nice at the moment and you don't think you need to wildcard just yet, maybe try to delay for game week 11, game week 12, and look to play it then as, again, those Liverpool, Manchester City and Newcastle fixtures start to turn and look really nice going forwards. I think that what I'm showing here on Plan FPL looks like a really nice rotation so far for a game week 6 wildcard as you go through the future weeks. If you have enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a like, subscribe down below to the channel. It really does help my channel grow as a small content creator. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through to the end. This has been your English Aussie, and have a great week, everybody.